Following the release of the September 21st, 2004 album A Celebration of an Ending by Before Today, the band would tour for another year and would perform many of the songs from that album. However, it didn't last long, as the last live show they ever did was reportedly on September 17th, 2005, and shortly afterwards, the band broke up as Mitchell Ballator and Joseph Tansel departed for unknown reasons. This is unfortunate, as we know they were making a new album, as shown with this official advertisement by Equal Vision Records. Vic and Mike Fuentes decided that they were not finished, however, and cooperated with Equal Vision Records so that they would still be signed to them, and would be able to continue making music. Now that it was just the two brothers, I assume they wanted to start fresh once again, and so they rebranded their name. And in tradition, they named their new band after a song they previously made, that being Pierce the Veil. That was definitely the best choice, as that song fits with a lot of their future works, what with that song's constant changes in genre and tempo, and the messages and theming of the song. This does, however, mean that most, if not all, of this album was solely created by Vic and Mike, since they didn't meet Tony and Jaime until sometime in 2006. This is quite interesting to consider, as this means at this point we are listening to a two-man band as opposed to every other album that has four main members. Sometime in May 2007, the album artwork was shown off to the world, revealing the name to be A Flair for the Dramatic, and has become iconic since then. However, I will say, I do prefer A Celebration of an Ending's artwork compared to this. This one feels a little bit more cluttered at first glance, and almost feels a bit vague on what exactly it's about. We see a sort of stage with a girl in a wedding dress slumped over a bed, clearly distraught, holding the flowers that were likely gifted to her. The mirror only shows a small bit of the back of her head, perhaps meaning that she can hardly see herself anymore. The blankets are thrown all over, looking unkept and messy. Pulling the stage theme together, the Pierce the Veil logo is held up by strings and has a board underneath it with the album title. To discover more of what the cover is implying, we open up the booklet that was included with the CD release on June 26th, 2007. The first page shows the girl being proposed to by this shredded guy, who doesn't have much going on other than his keys attached to his jeans. We can see that the bed behind the girl is neatly done, however messily covered in clothes, perhaps implying that she's someone who is foundationally solid, but has baggage weighing her down. Even her posture is stiff. While still having a huge smile, she still has insecurities. However, on the next page, everything seems to be looking up. Her bed is cleaned, and she is not only stunning a new outfit, but it's handmade by her, showing a strong level of commitment. Instead of having a stiff pose, she's maintaining a much more relaxed posture. However, her hand that seems to be a combination of saying hello and don't look yet, leads me to think she may be holding on to just a little bit of her previous baggage. Something interesting to me about this is that she's not even looking at the sewing machine when the boy is waving, which is, a little dangerous, but I like to think it was intentional, as it shows how she is choosing him over her own safety. We see that the boy is holding a bouquet of red roses for her, and has his keys wrapped on hand, likely to drive off to pick up a few more things for their wedding. However, this was unfortunately not meant to last, as she gets a call from the hospital. Side note, I appreciate how they connect the telephone wire through these pages, both working well with this format, as well as being consistent with the stage theme. It is clear that the boy had not only died, but that it was likely from a car crash, which was implied with the keys that were always in the boy's hands, and the amount of times car crashes will be referenced in this album. The girl falls to the ground in anguish, and the telephone also joins her on the floor. We see that the roses were left on her counter, with one of them fallen to the ground with her, meaning that all she is left with is her outfit made of blood, sweat, and tears, and the telephone that informed her of her lover's passing, and the rose, the last thing she can remember him by. Knowing this, she gathers the roses, gripping them as hard as she can, clenching the final memory of him close to her. But even roses will die, as he had. And just like him, she too bleeds out from the very gift he gave her, which will die with him. Turning to the very back, the curtains have been pulled in, closing the scene. And in an almost endless loop, we go back to the beginning as she tries to regather herself and her surroundings, putting the phone in the exact orientation as when she was first proposed to. Her bed now appears to be ravaged when compared to how well kept it was when he was still alive, implying that the only thing that made her slowly become comfortable is now gone and is tearing her apart. For the longest time, I thought this album cover didn't mean much and was a bit messy, but gathering the full story from this booklet and being able to fully analyze it not only makes me appreciate it way more, but makes me admire how much better the storytelling has gotten since the Before Today times. It's nothing insane, but it cohesively comes together well and does a good job telling a tragic story with no words at all, with some neat stage theme effects that drive home the aesthetic. So circling back to the artwork comparison, I'd say I still do prefer A Celebration of an Ending's artwork, but the story of A Flair for the Dramatic is far better. The disc art keeps with the stage theme too, as the letters of Pierce the Veil are hung with lines, cleverly done with the parts of the disc that aren't colored in, so it pops out both with the orange-brown color and the bright silver of the disc. With all of that out of the way, let's start with track 1. This song begins with what is now an iconic introductory melody. It's a fun, plucky sound that is equally fun as it is slightly haunting, fitting for the album. The song continuously builds for the first 50 seconds, with the vocals slowly finding their way into the melody, and adding drums that cleverly seem to follow their own melody at first, before joining the vocals. Then, after the title of the song is read, we get a fun solo, taking the drum patterns and speeding them up to match the new guitar riffs, which are also heavier to match the tone. I love how when the lyric of "I've been looking" is said, the drums and guitars are hyping up for a big moment, but it's cleverly dropped and is replaced with Vic saying "looking" in a higher tone of voice, with the subdued instruments beginning a new build. Following this, the way Vic belts out "Pastel Red" is done in such a fun, powerful way that makes this rising section still feel strong. But once again, the song fades out, going into this creepy sounding section with a low-key piano playing behind Vic's whispers, until letting out a raspy yell. Now onto the lyrics. I can't read this. Onto the internet we go, and the lyrics and meaning behind this song seem to have a lot to do with reflection and looking back on the misunderstandings of a relationship. I really like the opposites going on, such as how in the beginning, lyrics like "told you why I see no need for the sun," "a love you light as a love soon gone," are said, but soon after the lyrics, "I held a diamond to the sun to count the moments on account of the way you smile for me." Basically saying, even though this is a temporary thing and I don't necessarily need you, I can't help but reflect on every time you've ever smiled so perfectly at me. The lyric of "pastel red" and "porn star white" was always so confusing to me, but Tommy had pointed out to me that it likely has to do with the opposites within. Red is a color of blood and evil, however, it's described as pastel, which is a more serene, beautiful type of color. And then flipping it with "porn star white," a porn star is typically viewed as impure and unprofessional. However, white is added to oppose it, as white is a bright and pure color. Capping off the song with the whispery, mysterious ending, the lyrics speak of nightmares that have breached dreams, and the stars on her ceiling glowing, but not for her. And then the final lyric goes, "through the trees all blow." I feel that this speaks of being there for someone, whether in dreams or in reality, watching over and protecting. Someone who has been problematic, but still has one-of-a-kind, unique elements that make them worth fighting for. This song's messages would not have worked nearly as well if it weren't for the constantly changing tempo, which never gets too quick to the point the messaging gets messy, but enjoys its somber moments with deep serenity. Very interesting way to start off the album for sure, but they nailed it and it's gotten its iconic status for those reasons. Similar to A Celebration of an Ending, the second song shoots for the stars and shreds with its guitar riffs. This riff is one of my favorites in all of Pierce the Veil. I'll often turn on this song just so I can hear the opening. Even the drum work here is fantastic. Playing so quickly, I'm surprised it works so well with the song. Soon into this song, however, once the lyrics start, I must say the smallest critique I have is that the tempo that was built up in the intro is stopped, which is fine and in some cases works in the song's favor. However, in this instance, I personally wish that the fast pace was kept up for longer. However, it does pick up again later on. This song does something that I don't think any Pierce the Veil song has done, even to this day. What can only be described as a Death Circus ringleading announcer starts narrating and really gets this feeling of excitement building in the song. And as the announcer finishes by yelling "Resurrection," the drums start picking up faster and faster until Vic starts singing once more, combined with this new speed. This then leads to one of the finest solos I've ever heard in Pierce the Veil. So in the end, I can't hate too much on the tempo change earlier in the song, because they more than made up for it by leading into that high with some unique storytelling and guitar work. Lyrically, I feel the song is a bit simple, but it definitely feels like the focus of the song is on the instruments anyway. It's clearly about someone who loves to party, to the point they're needing to see a doctor and likely getting several injuries that required stitching. I also find it interesting that the Death Circus announcer section happens right after the lyric, "You gotta listen to your doctor's lie," maybe implying something from the doctor killed them. And the lyric of, "I'd rather see you dead than live without me," is a very haunting one, but it's absolutely a very interesting line about expressing love. But then the lyric of, "She'd rather see me dead than face me," puts it more on a one-sided view. But even after all of that, the ending lyric of, "For you I'd count the salt under the sea," is very sweet and is a line that I've never really heard anywhere else. I think overall, the lyrics are about a relationship that's so bad, it's essentially like a circus, hence the ringleader announcer section, and the deathly and mysterious undertones. This song is definitely more of a musical showcase rather than a lyrical one, I feel, as the quality of the instrumentals far surpass the quality of the lyrics, but it's all still great stuff. This is the most popular song on the album, and for good reason. Both lyrically and instrumentally, it's the most complex, with constantly changing tempos and melodies, and lyrics that paint a complicated and dark picture. The song opens with Vic softly singing over an acoustic guitar, with background vocals leading the melody. This is until the drums crash in, until resting with a more static melody once everything settles. One of my favorite parts is when the instruments all cut out and the lyrics go, "She could make hell feel just like home," and right after "just," the drums and guitars come right back in a really satisfying way. Following this as well, the lyrics of "Lightning Lips" cut the drums too, until revving back up with the awkward stranger line. Really, this keeps up for the whole song. The melody is constantly just switching up to match the lyrics of the song. It all feels very in sync and intentional with the story. The song does actually end with a minute-long instrumental ending section, which yes, is really good, but I do think it goes on for just a bit too long. But even still, instrumentally, this song is really solid. The story of this song is one that has stuck with fans for all these years, and I can absolutely see why. Starting with the title, for years I had no idea what it meant. That was until I read this fantastic document by Dummy Dumb on Reddit that described the title as well as the song. Yeah Boy is essentially a more childish way of saying yes man, which is implying the boy isn't seen as mature and is still always sticking by the girl's side. And Dollface refers to a girl who is so perfectly fake, it feels unfair. I won't be referencing any more of the document as I'd like my takeaways to stand on their own, as well as Dummy Dumb's. The setting is definitely in a hospital, with lyrics like "Wake me up and let me know you're alive," showing how even though this girl is going to be shown later in the song to be an abusive person, the boy still wants to stay by her side through the night. I like the imagery of "I've been answering machines all night," perhaps saying the boy is answering the calls of everyone who may be trying to reach out to her, but even still, the boy isn't getting any help and these calls aren't for him. In the line, "I kill the conversation, wrap this up with a knife that loves to feel," again goes back to the boy not being recognized and is harming himself with a knife so that he doesn't have to be alone anymore or deal with the pain of the dying girl. I guess I'm just your average boy, and with a knife in the back, represent how betrayed the boy feels in being used and is seen as nothing more than average. But then opposing this line, "She could make hell feel just like home, so I'm never leaving her alone," showing how she makes terrible places feel cozy, even with her not caring much about him, and he wants to still stick by her, even with all of that pain. "I only need one hand to drive when you're with me," implies the freedom the boy sometimes feels with her. But this also goes back to the album art, because this is a showcase of the careless driving. I also feel like the "Little Mona Lisa" lyric is another way of referencing the ideas in the title, and I love how Vic screams out the last "lie" in that lyric. The song ends with the boy explaining how he'd never let her go, and loves the sound of her voice, likely pointing out that the girl is on the brink of death, and while the boy may be free of her ignorance of him, he definitely won't be feeling that. This song definitely is referenced the most in the album art, what with the car crashing and the boy who would try his best to do everything for her, and they nailed the messaging of this song for sure. Almost feels like the priorities with this song and Current's Convulsive were slightly flipped. Starting out with some intense but somehow also low-key screaming, this song starts out with an almost bouncy sort of vibe. It's like you can tell this song may not be as deep as the last few, but it's filled with fun melodies. Out of all the songs on this album, this is instantly the one that comes to mind when I think of the fun one. The ending of the intro chorus ends with Vic doing some fantastic singing. I love how it's not exactly a scream, but he's putting his all into it. When the first verse starts, I love how fast the drums are pounding away, even though the song feels like it's relaxed. What the song does that I really like is that even when the final chorus ends, a new ending section begins with some background vocals that add to this little send-off. The title of this song is one that has been confused throughout the years. It doesn't literally mean he'd rather die than be famous. It's referencing how in the song, being famous with love interests are leading to deathly situations to the point he'd rather just die. The song literally starts screaming out a plea for the police to come help because of the destruction taking place. I love the line, although accidents happen, they happen to me, showing that he isn't perfect, far from it, and is reaching for some understanding, but that isn't reached, as we can see with the following lyrics like, "You love money and the sex in your veins." By far, my favorite lyric is, "Your pretty eyes don't give me much choice, but I'll take them home." Eyes that are so demanding yet still beautiful, you inevitably surrender to them. The song name is brought full circle with lyrics about jumping off the balcony together to end the madness, willing to die instead of continuing to be famous with love and the police. This song starts with every instrument blasting off at once. I haven't heard a song do this before, but it's cool. The song then plays what I believe is a distorted guitar. This sets up the rest of the song well, as the guitar playing here is fantastic throughout. The drumming too is on top performance here, specifically at the moment of "Oh, I Try." That is some phenomenal drum work for such a small section. In the chorus, I like how the guitar seems to sync up with the vocal melody while also doing its own thing. Even right when the chorus starts is done in an interesting way, where the lyrics are saying "calm down," even though this is the moment of the chorus. After this first chorus, what I think is an electronic keyboard is introduced into the melody, and it sounds great, and it's a shame we don't hear this stuff much in Pierce the Veil. And then my favorite part of the song, a massive build-up starts, with the drums getting quicker and quicker, the distorted guitar from the intro coming back louder, until the finest scream to guitar solo ratio just erupts. And then, even after the final chorus, similar to the previous song, a new ending section is brought in, with some even more intense guitar work, going from shredding to plucky tones, and then harsh, deep riffs. This song goes over a relationship where one person is doing everything they can, as said in the chorus. Their hands are doing the very best they can, but the other side leaves much to be desired. I love how often the word severed is used in this song, implying just how cut off and separate this relationship is, to the point their hands feel like they're useless in buying flowers to win the relationship back. It's also implied this relationship fights or cries together often, with how much the song speaks of calming their lungs down and screaming in bed. "Stop, drop, and roll, don't work in hell" is a fun line, but the implication is one I like, basically saying nothing can stop the fires of forgetting and regretting. And the lyric of writing this line 1,000 times implies this rage has been a long time coming, and it gets the better of them, as at the end of the song, their car is driven into the sea and it's so violent their teeth are shattered. The relationship seemingly ends with one side completely giving up, but not without giving it one last bitter remark. I love how this song handled its musical style and storytelling. They both shine so bright and really leave me stunned at how hard it hits. Here we have an acoustic song, a rarity for Pierce the Veil moving forward. Instrumentally, it's a constant rise of additional guitars and drums that don't overdo themselves. The instruments of this song serve almost fully to support the vocals, which is a great change of pace. Those vocals are wonderful too. The way Vic screams out "Lost Under the Shade" is my favorite part of the song, as it's so lengthy and emotional. I like how the ending of the song does some faster paced guitars to add some urgency to the ending and close off in a fun way. This song is somewhat about a relationship that moved too fast, to the point it ended up not working, but they dreadfully miss what they had. The lyric "You and me found love lost under the shade" implies the love was found in darkness, and well, you can't see too well in the dark, so it was a choice that was perhaps impulsive. The opposition of the lyrics, "she won't chase him anymore," and "he won't take her anymore," also shows that the girl may have been putting in more effort, but at one point, after the love was found in darkness, the boy won't accept her anymore. Lyrics like "pull the note out of my throat and leave me alone" spell this out even more. The boy won't even verbally admit that he wants nothing more of the relationship and just wants her to figure it out and leave him be. But seemingly, sometime later, the boy regrets his decision and begs her to come back to his heart. But the addition of "tonight" in that begging once again reaffirms that he hasn't learned his lesson about moving too fast. Wanting instant love or gratification won't solve anything, which is why the stranger in the title is there. He doesn't even know who she is, but just wants that feeling of love, nothing more. This song starts with the Sonic Adventure 2 Live and Learn main riff. Just wanted to point that out. Man, everyone keeps stealing from Sonic. First Zelda stole his sword, and they're making Luigi movies now. Anyway, this song begins with a massive buildup, about 40 seconds long, and I love how the drums slowly start finding their speed before all hell breaks loose. The guitars in this song also go absolutely bonkers, just a really hype song. Lyrically, this song is quite short, but the message is still there, that being a couple that wants to stay together, even though some think it may not work. It's really simple, and most of these lyrics are screams, so the meaning isn't too audible at times, but I still really like the lyrics of "a voice hits the air on a lonely coast, and I'll sing along like a prayer for you," emphasizing the beauty in her voice. Aside from that, however, there isn't too much to take apart from these lyrics, especially when the chorus heavily repeats itself. I feel like this song could have been extended or just tweaked a bit. As is, it's a very energetic song with a ton of hype and screaming, but not too much else. I do want to mention, this song actually has a demo version, and there isn't too much I have to say, other than comparing the choruses shows just how much better the sound mixing got through the stages of making this song. Starting out with a fun piano melody, I love how this ominous clapping looms over it until leaving once the vocals start. The guitars in this song sound a lot more raw and plucky in the background, which makes sense as this is a slower paced song. I love how when the lyrics transition into the "dance on the edge" line, all of the instruments except for a faint guitar completely fade out. And then after the count of 3 is up, everything rushes back in, over the same "dance on the edge" line, and it really makes that section feel impactful, plus fitting with the hypothetical timer of 3 seconds. The song then ends with the same piano melody fading out. The lyrics begin with "my biggest head scratcher," but what I gather from this line is that because the girl is a ghost and lights are fatal to ghosts, the sound of a ghost screaming for help wouldn't be heard since no one knows what that sound is. But the boy in this scenario really wants to listen, saying they might be something to her, and the sound that this ghost makes must be beautiful. The boy is truly in love and wants this girl, but at this point she's nothing but a ghost because of the previous relationships that left deep scars, quote unquote killing her. But the boy won't give up, asking her to dance on the edge, in a way asking her to take a chance one more time. He knows that she's scared, but wants her to take his hand and jump into something new for once. The demo version of the song is also one that I am glad they fixed up because Vic's vocals sound like they're meant for a demo version, which, yeah, obviously, but I think this song being recognized as one of the best on the album wouldn't have happened if they didn't overhaul this demo. This song starts with Vic immediately going into the first verse, before fading into a build-up for the first chorus. And the main guitar riff for the chorus is set at a key that sounds unique, echoing as it goes. It's pretty neat. Right after the chorus is my favorite part, where Vic is doing some great screaming, but the distortion effect on it makes it sound excellent with the grungy guitars. Ending off the song, I love how much the instruments fade when speaking of how many stars are in the sky, before all of them come back at the mention of only one star being needed. This song seems to be about a girl in a relationship who is hurting herself, but is also ruining the relationship in the process. Lyrics in the beginning speak of running fingers down broken glass and an open mirror is seen. That open mirror is the girl seeing her own blood, as it's an open wound, a reflection of herself. But the boy still drives her around, but fights break out in these drives, which will turn dark later. The lyric of "Tonight the center of the sun will separate in sparks, they're climbing up the sky and down the dark," was the most confusing line I had ever read, especially because I couldn't hear it because it's so heavily distorted. And so I asked my girlfriend for help on this one, and I think she nailed it. It's explaining how the sun, which is a star, splits in two, which means it's two star fragments, with sparks individually trailing them. They then go their own way, but doing so against the rules of nature, one of which going up the sky and the other going down the dark, signifying how those pieces are still lost without being whole. Progressively, things get more heated in the song, with the girl wanting someone who cares, and the boy wanting to just speak his mind. I like the implication of Cinderella swallowing up the sun, as it was mentioned earlier how the sun was split, but now she's swallowed all that there was to love about that light, becoming nothing more than a girl in a dress. But then, a middle-class explosion, while being a hilarious line, is also fitting because these destructive things don't exactly mix well. But even after this, the boy moves on and can finally see a light, millions of them, but he only needs one of them to save his life, to rescue him from this abusive past. But that light never comes, as the car they were driving crashes and a bloodbath leaves them as they collide. Red water is such a terrifying way to describe blood. Like, there's so much blood, it's just water. This song starts out with some fast but easygoing drums, until some classic tempo breakdowns settle in. Specifically with the lyric, "Even Give Me," I love how the patterns switch up and the guitars shred lower and lower. I like how much the chorus slows down too. I feel like it fits the song well, even though it is a lot slower than the rest of the song. Immediately after too, right before "Spell Out" is said, the way the guitars and drums lead into it is just so satisfying. The way Vic sings in the second chorus of the song, emphasizing the word sky, putting some dramatic flair in it, is very well done. And the moment with "This remedy is worse than the disease" is also sung very well, and the way the instruments come and go in this one bit makes it impactful. The song then ends with an acoustic guitar, redoing the chorus but with none of the other instruments, a really fun way to end the song. This song's messages are some of the stronger ones on the album, as it's simply about a relationship that ended, but the boy can't stop reminiscing about how beautiful the memories were. "I love to receive what the earth and sea had thought it'd be best to not even give me." It implies that this girl is a gift that not even natural elements could have provided, but fate instead. This girl also had just gotten out of a previous relationship, which seemingly didn't go well since we see that the other person was a bothersome burden. The most interesting lyric is, "I saw the moon divorce the sky." This is a bit complicated, but I see it two ways. Either as the boy thinking back on these memories for so long that he witnessed the moon fade away from the sky, just like she had left him, or the moon is the girl and the divorce is her leaving the sky, which puts her at a lonely position all on her own, but her beauty as the moon still shines. And the lyric, "This remedy is worse than the disease," is a fun one because the remedy is to end the relationship, but the disease, while perhaps sickening in some way, definitely made the boy happy, and he's worse off for it. The song ends with the boy asking to start over, by re-saying hello, reintroducing each other to start fresh. Once again, I think the acoustic ending really helps sell the final message, and it's really well done. This song also has a demo version that has a completely different sounding acoustic ending, both vocally and musically. We have now made it. This is my favorite song on the album, and it's absolutely in my top 10 songs of all time. The song starts with a heavily distorted guitar, clearly leading a somber mood forward. The lyrics speak of a boy who has let go of this girl, however he still thinks of how beautiful her features are. However, he knows that she's no longer with him, and it's because he's trying out in Hollywood, trying to make it big. However, it seems that his efforts were for naught, as he didn't make it, and with a heavy heart, smoking a cigarette, he lets out a long sigh, but it doesn't even feel like anything anymore. All he can feel is that he made a mistake and wants to see her again. The guitars wail as he realizes how much he just wants to go back to how things were. He still remembers the downside of this relationship, her two faces signifying that her emotions are a lot to handle after how long it's been. But he's willing to take it at face value to make up for what he's done and missed out on. Who knows who's really to blame for how things went, but he knows his own mistakes and lets them drag him down, focusing on them. Then, all the instruments cut out, except for a lone guitar slowly strumming away. If you don't find me on the front page, find a way to say that you saw me. He's coming home, after trying his heart out to become recognized on magazines, and maybe it didn't even happen, but even so, find a way to think of me. Remember me and say I was worth something to you, that I was important. The drums kick back in, raising the stakes, emotionally keeping you hooked. And then the lyric, and if you don't find me at all, then I won't care. If you weren't able to see my efforts, my struggles, my grit, I won't mind. I still love you and will make up for all of my mistakes. I failed, I made mistakes, I wanted to be somebody special, someone important, bigger than me. I wanted to be loved by people, but I didn't realize soon enough that I was already loved by you. But I'm coming home now, and I'm ready to call you back so I can finally escape from myself. And then, you can do the same. We then get a fantastic 2-minute long outro, with the somber wailing guitars paired with Vic's harmonies. It feels impactful, it feels strong. It feels like being a better person and leaving what was dragging you down, walking towards your new future with open arms. When it comes to the writing and emotional meaning in these lyrics, this album is a huge step up from Before Today. These feel like personal stories about people who just can't seem to get things right, but they still try so hard. Sometimes they have their priorities in the wrong places, are stuck up in an upset rage, or want something unreasonable, and it doesn't always end well. But in retrospect, we are beautiful people and deserve to be loved. I feel like that's how I'd describe this album. Simpler so, broken but beautiful. Additionally, thanks to Molly, I was made aware that there was a cut 12th song on this album. Molly had theorized that it was either Kissing in Cars, as that song was made around the time of this album, or that it was a scrapped transition track. However, even with the fact this album has a scrapped song, it still feels complete and shows off its full heart loud and proud. With that being said, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.